Today we are reacting to the African President Kagame responding to the BBC.
Thank you very much. My name is Ansoy from the BBC. I have a quick question for President Kagame. As chair of the Commonwealth, I wonder what your priority will be, especially in terms of upholding the values of democracy and human rights.
Of course, the Western media will ask about values and human rights. They're obsessed with asking Africans and Eastern countries about these topics, as if the whole world is monolithic. The question has an assumption that human rights and values are universal, and that Rwanda should be judged by American and Britain liberal values. It's a reflection of their colonial mindset and superiority complex. They believe that they are superior than us, and they feel compelled to come and force us to follow their ways, because they don't understand that we are able to think for ourselves, and we are categorically not interested in their ways. Let's hear the response of President Kagame.
Now, let me start with the issue of values. Who defines the values? Or who doesn't actually have values? When people talk about values sometimes, there's one part of the world that has assumed the sole responsibility and the monopoly of defining values.
Thank you, Mr. President, for getting straight to the point. How can the mainstream media or the Western media answer this question? Who defines values? If they claim values are universal, then they should justify their position, which is impossible to do outside of a religious setting.
So the rest of us have no values. We've just to keep learning from these ones who define the values. And by the way, the danger also is, it doesn't matter how long you take learning, you will never qualify. You will just always be branded somebody who has no values or who comes from a place where there are no values. So I want to put this case clear. Those from the north who always assume where BBC comes from, who always think they are the face of values, the rest have to follow. It's a big mistake. It's not true. We have values too. We here in Rwanda, in Africa, we do. No question about it.
This is their new ways to keep threatening sub-Saharan African countries with sanctions because they are not subservient to the West. They want to keep putting barriers in front of our development and keep our nations fighting stupid fights about human rights, feminism, LGBTQ, and a bunch of ideologies that in reality doesn't even exist in our societies. But the mainstream media use their resources to give an illusion to the international community that in Africa there is victims of human rights violations to justify interventions and violation of the sovereignty of African nations.
There are some of these problems we have had in our continent, in Rwanda. Those from the north who define or want to define values have been part and parcel of these problems we have been facing. Some of them have actually been the cause of the problems we face. But at the same time, like the genocide here that took place here in Rwanda, where 1 million people over were killed.
You don't need to be a university professor or a scholar to read and understand the major economical problems that Rwanda and other African nations suffer are unequivocally caused by the Western world and America. They come, they genocide the whole people, destroy the infrastructures, and we end up with loans, with interest rates that will guarantee our countries will be in debt for eternity.
And then the others assume the higher ground, they are up there in the north and keep pointing fingers at, those of us and think we have no values and we just are there to, we don't respect freedoms, we don't respect human rights. Sure, you think so? BBC, you think so? You take time, you broadcast, and from morning to evening, this is literally just abusing people. You're abusing Rwandans, you're abusing Africans, values. What values do you know, my dear sister, on behalf of BBC? So I want to assure you, there is nobody in the BBC or anywhere else thereabout who would be holding values better than we do here in Rwanda.
President Kagame did a great job at exposing the BBC mission. They are interested in infecting our societies with an inferiority complex and to believe whatever the West says is right without asking questions or using critical thinking. We are not followers. We have our own history, our own morals and values, and we are not interested in confusing the next generations with gender theory and a clash of a civilization that will only benefit our enemies and hinder our ways of life. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this type of content. If you do, please subscribe, like, and leave your feedback in the comment section.